Hey, you guys are seeing behind the scenes right now because I have to refresh. I put some browser windows on the screen. I have to refresh them so I can get into this chat so I can actually see you guys and what you're saying and make it so that the camera can see it too. I've installed a new feature this week. Oh man. Which is that hopefully I can show you guys your own comments live. But I gotta just refresh this, refresh that. That's how behind the scenes your access is right now. Yeah, there, I finally found it here. Okay, so I'm gonna be streaming this in the background so that I can feature your comments, because the point of this, we're doing the, oh, we already got a question. Hey, Carolyn Scott, I'm dying to know why there is no punishment in heaven. I'm gonna get to that question in just a second. I wanna tell you what this is that we're doing right now. I wanna eventually make this a place where we can go back and forth, but also I can hear from you guys what you think about things. Like, I want to be able to give you a voice, and I'm fascinated into what about this Swedenborg stuff is interesting to you, what has moved you, and what's helpful. Because if we're not putting out stuff that's helping people, you know, what are we doing? So that's what I'm hoping to be able to find here. So that's the plan. And now we don't have a lot of tools to make it really interactive, but we're working on it technology-wise. Let's see, this browser window, I was going to do this awesome thing where I showed you guys here. I can show you right here. So watch this. You want to see yourselves on TV? Yeah. Okay, there it is right there. There it is. Oh, it's not focused? This is like amazingly behind the scenes stuff. Well, there you go. Carolyn, Jade, Ellie, Carolyn, Robert Bush is in now. You guys, thank you. This is what makes our channel possible. You guys tuning in, doing stuff like that. And I wanted to, like, we could do the Q&A thing, and we are going to do that. Oh, Carolyn says Swedenborg gives me hope. That's why I love this. Exactly. And I have a story for you about hope that I want to lead with, because we can do some Q&A. I want to also talk a little bit about, like, what the last week's episode and what that was and what it meant in life. And here's a little story of application. And then, if you guys don't mind, I'd love to hear, like, did anybody watch the show last week? It was about repentance, how to be in heaven now, and what did it do for you? Louise Blackman, you said, I wish I could see everyone's faces. Does that mean you wish you could see everyone else who's watching their faces? Because that, I mean, we could get some kind of Google Hangout thing going. Anyway, let me know if you hear me say that. Last show was about repentance. It's called How to Be in Heaven Now. And I've been thinking about that second part of the title, how to be in heaven now. And I was thinking, hey man, what's it like to make the trip to heaven? And if you know Swedenborg, then you know that you don't got to leave this world to do it. It's just a state of mind thing, right? So I was at the doctor's office trying to figure out how is that going to be heaven. It wasn't for anything serious, so I wasn't nervous to be at the doctor, but it was just like, this doesn't feel like heaven right now. This just feels kind of like a waste of my time. But if I had made that trip, what would heaven be like there? And I was looking at myself and I was realizing that I had a significant amount of anxiety, and I was trying to pin down what would be the difference between the mindset I'm in here right now and the mindset of heaven. And the first thing I noticed was I didn't have any kind of trust in providence. You know, Swedenborg has this idea that it's not really me and the doctors and the rest of the stuff in my life that make events unfold as they are. It's actually divine providence. So I noticed that that concept didn't feel real to me. So I spent a little time sitting on that and trying to make it feel more real. And I realized, okay, that's a lot of the anxiety. Because once I imagine this idea of the divine omnipotence running things for real, I felt better. And this is what I'm talking casting. I think we're back. Okay, that's how real it is. I got a call on my phone while it was broadcasting. So every time somebody calls me on my cell, if you know my cell number, don't call it. It's gonna not work. Is everybody not being able to see the picture? Getting some comments. Let me show you these comments. Let me show you these amazing comments that we're getting. Oh yeah, this is where we haven't refreshed yet, but people are saying it's not working. It's offline. Yeah, that was just for a second. Can you guys see? Let me know. So far, so good. Okay, cool. My garden is full of weeds as well, and that's metaphorically true, and it's literally true. So I was in this doctor's office, and Providence wasn't there, but then I was like, how can these other weird Swedenborg ideas help? You know, how can they make this moment different? So I started thinking about, we were talking about the divine human and the importance of that, and I started to think about, I'm missing that part of the mindset that God, like God is a person here. So as I was in this room, the room wasn't that pretty. It was like linoleum and tile and you know, small. But what if God was in this room? How would it feel? So I imagine, you know, like people do, like what if God's sitting in that chair? And it suddenly changed the way I felt. I was suddenly thinking about, instead of what's going on for me in my life right now, I was thinking, what would God think about this room? And I was looking around at the medical instruments and the different ways that people are trying to help the human body. And I was thinking, oh yeah, well maybe God is looking at this like, yeah, we want people to have good health. But then I started to get down again, because I was like, well, you know, it's Western medicine. So is it, you know, are these things too chemical, too sterile? Is this not really how you help the human body? It was sort of killing the mood that the other stuff had brought up. But then I remembered this other weird Swedenborgian thing, which was angels only look for the positive. So if God is really in the room, God would be looking for, no, this is the bright side. I like the help that's trying to be here. That might just sound like a bunch of scattered Swedenborgian points, but to me, I was able to take a mood that was not that great and turn it into happiness. And from then on, I was much happier until the doctor showed up. Then it was fine. I was just normal again, but I noticed right there, sorry, just wiping, there's like you got a voicemail on my phone, so I was wiping that off. And it changed. So I want to know, does Swedenborg stuff help you guys? Does it change things? Hey, Keith Glazer says that his cat is watching this. The problem, Keith, is that YouTube doesn't keep statistics on that, so that's not going to help our channel stats. Just kidding. Yes, exactly. I'm glad that other people are interested in Swedenborg as well. Oh, and yeah, in Norway, but all over, because it matters to have all you guys sitting there and being interested in that. Not only that, but being interested in our ceiling. We get a lot of chat about the ceiling here, and I'll tell you, it's cooler than it even looks. I can't, there's a little, it's really tall, and it's like inspiring, and I'm sure it corresponds to something to have a high ceiling. Like your mind, it doesn't have the same limits, but we didn't know that when we moved in here. And I want to point out also, hey Bianca, back there you're seeing Swedenborg and Life, the show, in action. That's Stuart Farmer. He's actually putting together. Hey, Stuart. Are you there? He's actually putting together the show as we speak, right? So that's pretty good. All right, we got some people here. What do you guys want to talk about? Oh, I want to get this quote here. This is from Ellie. Hit questions, comments, anything like that. But I would love to hear stories about what Swedenborg's done for you, and we have one right here from Ellie, which says, Swedenborg has changed everything for me, especially that evil is not people themselves, you, me, but is evil influences from the outside. This is so powerful and helpful to forgive you and me. Wow, that's amazing, because we were just talking, okay, that's spoiler alert for the show that Stuart's working on right now. It's about to come out. We were talking about that very same thing, and Jonathan and I did like an answer to a audience question that was written in, and we were talking about that same thing, that it's not just you look at your own thoughts and feelings and think, oh, is this from hell, is this from heaven? But in looking at other people, that changes the way you feel about other people. Because if I can look at myself and know, well, this is probably from heaven, this is probably from hell. But when somebody else says something bad, I'm like, that's just how they are. No, it's not. That's their own hell kind of thing coming through. All right, that's awesome. Let's look for some more other stories. Happy Evan says, could you do the live chat immediately after the recorded episode? We will have information fresh in our mind, and additionally, we all feel pumped up after your wonderful episodes. I'm glad you get pumped, and I was considering that. Oh yeah, be patient with this thing here. The technology's not there. The timing, this is not the, oh good, Ellie says that's what she meant, so that's good. The timing on this, it's not always gonna be Fridays at this time. It could be all over the place. We're just trying to get the format to work. We're trying to see, are people interested? And I ideally think we would bounce it around. So that because there's some people doing it right after the show is good for people who work in that time zone. There are some people who it's already 2 o'clock in the morning when they're trying to watch that. So to go even farther, later after that would further exclude them from ever having a chance. I think ideally we get this thing kind of bouncing around. But as far as content goes, absolutely. That is what we'd want to do, is be right after that. Yeah, exactly. So we've got, this timing is perfect for people in the Netherlands, though. So we got to try to balance that, you know. Oh, Carolyn Scott said, I heard some horrible news on child abuse. What will God do with that? So we try to address this a bit in our upcoming episode. We're doing a show that's called Is Life Fair? Or Life, it doesn't seem fair, or is it? And we're trying to address things like that. Like, how can it be that things like that are allowed? We did a show called Why Do Bad Things Happen?, which was addressing that pretty well. But then there's all these variations on it. Like how can you start out in a situation where it seems like you're not provided with the resources, you don't have the love around you, you have bad luck in events. How is that ever going to be fair? And the answer is there are technical answers, but nothing's going to take away the pain of hearing about horrific things happening. That's my state that I'm in right now, is that I can understand, okay, God only allows things that no matter what happened to even to a kid, it's going to be that eventually they're in heaven and everything's fine. And that somehow God has been able to save any lasting harm, and somehow this person has grown better and happier because of everything. So that's like an intellectual thing, but it doesn't mean that I can handle hearing about people being harmed, and even especially kids. Having one of my own now, it's just like, oh, it's too much for me to think about. When I hear about people dying really young, emotionally I'm not going to be there, regardless of how awesome Swedenborg's explanations of things are. I want to get back to your comments. I'm flipping this thing around. Let's see what you guys have said here. The short clip posted yesterday on the dead in dreams. Does this mean that people who are dead actually come to us in dreams? We can believe these dreams? It seems like, yes, both. You know, that dreams can be everything from a representation of concepts that is coming out of the ideas in our own minds to like spirits sort of casting images. You know how on this show, people like Stuart, who's back there, are able to make graphics that make an appearance of a person walking or doing something when no person actually did that. There can be that in dreams, but also dreams can be accurate, a clear perception of what's really going on. So there can very well be real people that you know and that you love and who love you coming through in dreams. At other times, it's just ideas manifesting. Does that make sense? So the answer seems to be both. And I would not consider myself a dream expert, but I think that if it feels like it's really the person, I would imagine it is, just with the nature of the closeness of the words. Can you guys speak on why it seems our society is on the race to self-destruction? What kind of spirits have hold of these poor souls? And I'd love to get everyone's thoughts. That's from Lord Flacco. Are things better now than they have been, or worse than they have been? I mean, Swedenborg asserted that in 50s, 60s, something like that, the world was in a really bad state. Because this is right when the last judgment was happening. The spiritual world was a mess, and because of that, the physical world was a mess. Are we better now, or we're not? Some people would argue there's a whole book written on what people think are these improvements in the state of human life because of this intervening time that they think might be the new church. Even things like, now we hear about things like child abuse and we say, that's wrong, you can't do that. Whereas back in the day, there was almost no control over that kind of stuff. So that's something to think about. Are we showing it better or worse? As far as like, why is everything so bad? It's the pollution in the world of spirits. Or that's how it was in Swedenborg's time. That it's hard to get good ideas. It's hard to get good feelings because there's such a mess of malevolent spirits there. And that every time we take a little bit of time to try to do something good, we help clear that air. We clear it in ourselves, and we clear it out there. So that's pretty good. Oh, Jade says, in the last 100 years, I think the state of humanity has improved a lot. But we hear a lot more because of tech, which is, I think, a great insight. It's just, there was recently in the news this like triple murder that happened not that far up the street from where I live. It's a few miles, but just I never would have known about that even if it wasn't for this text. And so there's all these really tough things that we have to face, understanding just how bad the things are for the whole world, which can make it feel worse. But in the end, yeah, I think the attention on it is good. It's like sunlight is good for, sterilization in a way. The attention and the truth allows us to collectively work on solutions, that kind of thing. I want to see more. So the camera keeps like unfocusing when I push it away, so we'll have to get back here. Matthew Bush says he thinks he noticed more Christians now. And Michael Bravo says people are crazy. Just look at politics. I also know that there's so politics is, right, is it that it's worse, or is it that it's more examined? Thanks, Little Dora. Lisa, you're looking particularly well as well. But I wanted to point this out here. Luis Blackman says, let's do something that will really throw Curtis off his stride. Mischievous spirit at work. I see that, and I say, go for it. Bring it on. Nothing you do is ever going to faze me. So Happy Heaven says, have you heard of Glenda? Here's book Love Without End. It is very similar to what Swedenborg wrote, kind of like a summary. So I don't know what to do. There's so many leads people are giving me that say, hey, this is similar to Swedenborg. This is what you're similar to Swedenborg. What do you think of these? And I haven't read them, but I want to. And we could do there could be a whole, not just a whole other channel, a whole other foundation, just looking at what are the similarities in the accounts of life after death, or is there any kind of database gathering what all these people are saying? And putting it together. So I think that could be fascinating. So if anybody wants to really do a favor to the cause, maybe start delving into things like that, books that are similar, but look at specific points. Like, this is where they say this is similar, this is what, we could get some kind of like, I'm picturing like web pages that have like basic similarities between worldviews of Swedenborg and other people. Then at a glance, you can kind of figure out, oh, this is maybe a thing I want to read more about. This is a thing I want to read. Does that make sense? I think that would be a phenomenal resource. So that's my thought. An online book group would be good. Kate, what kind of online book group? Are you talking about like an online Swedenborg group, or just any, like we read other books? Or let me know. I want to hear if you guys have community ideas. I want in on it. Right. Ellie Mulder is talking about personal responsibility, that we have free choice to listen to the good or bad voices in our lives. And that Swedenborg says that the process of differentiating or just labeling is one of the most powerful things that we can go through. I mean, that's one of the greatest regeneration tools that we can have. So, okay, wait, we got a response from Kate. So, yes, Emanuel Swedenborg books to discuss other writers as mentioned too. And you guys are certainly welcome to start a group, and I'm happy to like share details. If anybody's like starting a project and they want to, hey, look, there's my little face down there. And they want to start something, like, and you want me to talk about it on the show, I'm open to it. So if you're getting a group together at a particular time, let me know. I'm happy to mention it. Why do some people get bad conscience while others don't at all? Spiritual truth, culture, learning. Why do we all have different, this little arrow is no good, different consciences, right? Not consciousnesses. Okay. So it has to do with like providence, right? How is each person's mind formed? How are the experiences going? But even how useful is the conscience to each particular person, right? I mean, what is providence trying to do then? This episode, it's funny because you guys are all asking questions that relate to our upcoming episode, but this episode, why is life fair? That's what we're looking at. Like, what is it fair for one person to get a particular conscience while another one gets another? And it's got to be that nobody's hampered from their path to heaven by, oh, you got a worse conscience. But Michael Bravo just said hereditary evil, and that's what I'm talking about. We have different issues we all deal with. So there's some people who really struggle, they don't want to steal. you know, but they always feel like I've got to steal, and they're pushing back against that, and it's the kind of thing that they're fighting their whole life. Other people, this never occurs to them, so they didn't have to fight that battle in the first place. So there's differences in the things that we're up against, and that can affect our perception of what's good and true, which is what he says conscience is. So I think it all has to do with what's right for each person at each time. And it's a sister question, or a part of the fabric of the question about why are some people rich? Why are some people poor? Why are some people lucky? Why are some people unlucky? It's got to be that it's not done with favoritism, but with love. So, hey, Chelsea,
Yeah.
do you want to come and hang out for a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, so we got Chelsea is in the studio today, and I want to try to see if we can have two people on this at the same time. So I'm gonna take out this and talk like you guys can still hear me, and if I can't, let me